lead us in a prayer to get us started.
Thank you for asking me to come this morning. And as I was preparing for today, there was something that came across my mind that I believe I'm supposed to share, and that is that we live in the heart of farming country, and we're used to planting and reaping. We plant corn, we plant soybeans and other crops. And we know that when we plant corn, we're going to get corn. We're going to get apples, And there are things that we plant in our own lives. We can plant peace and joy and love and kindness, and we will reap those. Now, there may be a few weeds along the way, There will be times that there will be things we have to encounter, but if we keep sowing those good things, that is what we will reap in our lives. And the Word tells us to pray for everyone, for all of our leaders, our local leaders, our state leaders, our federal leaders, that we can live a life of goodness and kindness and dignity. So this morning, let's do that, okay? Father, we thank you so much for this beautiful day that you've given us. We thank you that you have brought us here. I pray over this meeting, Father, that all of those who are involved will have kindness and love in their hearts, Father, that there will be good come out of the encounters here today. And we just thank you, Father. We pray for all of our leaders, our local leaders, our state leaders, the federal leaders, Father God. It's very important that we pray for everyone, that we can lead godly and kind and dignified lives, Father. We just thank you today that this meeting goes well, Father. We thank you that there will be great outcomes from the results of this meeting. We just thank you, Father, for the goodness, your provision in our lives today. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thanks,
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Go ahead and call our meeting to order at 9:32. Can I have a roll call, please?
Clifton.
Here.
Fitch. Here. Stancil. Here.
All present. In reviewing the agenda, does anyone have any conflicts of interest on there? Didn't see any. Next item is the approval of the consent agenda. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Diane. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Heather. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Department head reports. Mike, you're on the agenda.
Are you ready?
Good morning, everyone. Been quite a day getting here.
Good luck getting back.
I wanted to kind of bring up a few things, resolutions that we have upcoming. We're going to kind of group it together. We have our typical approving road closures. I want to remind everybody that you can go to the Madison County website. You can actually go to the roads portion or engineering section, and it's labeled under Madison County Road Notification. And that'll show notifications, weight restrictions, those type of things on a map. You can actually sign up for a text message or an email that be sent to you. Also just recently, the Iowa County Engineers Service Bureau partnered with the Iowa Department of Transportation, and those notices are also being pushed out onto the Iowa 511 travel information site. You have to go over to the far left and click on county notices. Now, the only thing that gets pushed out there is road closures. So that's kind of what we've had a lot of here lately, especially on some highways. One of the resolutions that we're going to talk about, so Pitzer Road last week actually received a lot of email traffic and voice traffic on why they weren't notified. So I'm here to kind of educate people a little bit. We actually put that out the week before, and I asked anybody else to say, hey, share that, so we get the word out. A lot of them didn't know that it was now on the 511. You have to click over on the far right on that app and say county information. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. The other is 2 notifications for our traffic control today to make traveling a little safer for our visitors and our local residents, and that would be, of course, on the rec right now. So that's kind of a couple things I wanted to kind of bit about those resolutions that we'll talk about here. The others are on the far end, and they're basically work agreements for pipe culvert projects that we are getting ready to go to next. They would be, I believe, E and F. And then we're going to apply for some traffic safety money. And as part of that application, it requires a board resolution saying that you support the application. I believe it's due August 15th, right? We'll hear sometime in January. And actually Cole, the assistant to the county engineer, he's been working on this project, and he's got kind of a little basic, I shouldn't say basic, kind of a presentation here. Cole, you can come on up. Kind of tell us what we're trying to do here. We every year we try to look at our road system and see a few things that we could improve on. The state of Iowa DOT gives us some great information. We have a database that we can look at that shows all the, how do I say, reported accidents. So if there's a reported accident within our county road system, it goes into the database. And we can actually go back 10 years and look at various things on those accidents. So that's one of the things to kind of look at. And with that being said, I'm going to have Cole tell us a little bit about this application.
So like Mike said, this is through the state of Iowa grant, and it's mainly for road safety improvements, traffic control devices, and then studies of the road. We actually applied for this a few years ago and got it for traffic control devices, I believe, which worked out well. It does have a maximum of $500,000 per year. And as Mike mentioned, it's heavily based off of the crash report summary and the location history of past events that may or may not have, or that have happened. You can go to the next slide. So the project location is just to the west of Earlham, around a series of 3 curves, or S-curve area, which we've actually had in the last 2 years. I think we've had 2 fatalities at this area, so it qualifies for this grant.
That's Pitzer, right?
Yep, that's Pitzer P53, yep. We can go to the next slide. Some of the improvements we're looking at making is improved signage. So the oversized warning signs, those are your turn signs. We're going to do some oversized signs to make it give a little bit more warning, a 45-mile-per-hour advisory sign to try and get people to slow down, along with chevron signs along the 2 major curves there. Other improvements, as you can see in the bottom right picture, right now we just have gravel shoulders, and we're looking at putting 4-foot paved shoulders with rumble strips, along with 6-inch pavement markings. Currently there's 4-inch pavement markings, so the 6 inches helps with visibility and catch motorist attention. The next slide kind of gives the timeline. August of this year, we'll submit the application, get approval in January, project letting in October of 2025, and then hopefully start no later than August of 2026. And that's just kind of an overview. If anybody has any questions.
How competitive are these grants?
So I went through last year's grants just to get an idea of how to put the package together, and I would say 60 to 70% of them receive that money, and that's heavily based off of the benefit to cost ratio. And unfortunately, since we've had incidents there, we're looking pretty good with our benefit to cost ratio.
What's the cost of this project?
Right now I have it around $410,000, trying to keep it under that 500 within the grant.
So it's $500,000 per grant awarded, not overall money available.
Correct. There's a bigger pool of money. I don't have the exact number on that, but per municipality or per organization, it's a $500,000.
So they'll give you $500,000, and if you do it for $410,000, do you get to keep that?
No, they'll just do it for that.
Here we call it.
I wish it worked that way.
Always thinking, Diane.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cole. I appreciate you working on that. I don't have anything else to add.
Thank you, thanks, Mike.
Thanks for all your work during all these events.
Yeah.
I know it's a lot for you guys.
All right, our next item is the public hearing on amendment to ordinance 50.42 or solar energy systems. Can I have a motion to end the public hearing? A Motion by Heather, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Diane, all in favor of entering a public hearing at 9:40, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, any opposed? Motion carries, we are in a public hearing. Aaron, do you have to be on the phone? That is a no. I communicated with, I guess necessary, I communicated with Erin a little bit yesterday. Her concern, and maybe Ryan, you can elaborate on this, maybe, I don't know. Her concern was that there was some loopholes in there, that this ordinance needed to be cleaned up, and her recommendation was to pass a moratorium until such time that it could be cleaned up. Do you have anything more to add to that?
That's basically, I mean, I haven't talked to her really since we had decided that would be the best avenue. As far as what's been done beyond that point, I'm not sure of.
So we're just simply cleaning up the language.
Well, this is a ordinance to put a moratorium on them for 12 months so that it can be cleaned up.
So we won't be accepting applications or issuing permits.
The ordinance that was passed previously was pretty restrictive, and she just thought it had some loopholes in it that just eliminate that issue. Anyone from the public wish to comment on this matter at this time? Okay. Seeing none, I'd ask for a motion to adjourn the public hearing.
So,
Motion by Diane, is there a second?
second.
Second by Heather, all in favor of adjourning the public hearing, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, we're adjourned at 9:41. The public comment section of our meeting, anyone from the public wish to comment at this time? Clicking right along. Teddy, you have a presentation, tell us what you've got going on.
Okay.
I would say it's all good news, but lots of headaches and loopholes and paperwork.
Turn the microphone.
Turn it on.
Yeah, so thank you for having me here. Teddi Yaeger, I am the project manager for the Covered Bridges Scenic Byway. A couple of years ago, 2022, all of the Iowa byways and coordinators got together and applied for funding from the National Scenic Byway program. Money had been allocated and they opened it up, and that was the first time in a long time that it happened. This particular grant has to, the Iowa DOT, Department of Transportation, has to be the applicant for it. And they were, and it was decided that all of the byways throughout Iowa could benefit from welcome hubs or kiosks in the communities where the byways go through. In the Covered Bridges Scenic Byway, which is all within Madison County, that's 3 communities, that's Winterset, St. Charles, and Bevington. And we were awarded that funding, but it's not that easy, as it turns out. We were granted 2 large kiosks, which are double-sided panels, potentially single-sided, 2 panels, and you have in your packets illustrations of what those look like, that have a map of the byway with clear indication that the visitor is at a particular location on that byway where that kiosk is located, and talks about the highlights of our assets along that, so historical sites, scenic, cultural, etc. So 2 large for Winterset and for St. Charles, and then a small kiosk was granted for Bevington. Bevington, it's just barely on that byway, but the reason Bevington was included was really for that Bevington Park Road and the St. Patrick's Irish Settlement. So we've been waiting a couple of years to see what happens next after getting the funding, and it was nearly $500,000 for all the byway hubs. And now all of a sudden they need sign off. If the DOT does not accept the funding and kind of get their ducks in a row by September, we lose the funding. None of us want to see that. So we're kind of in a situation now where I'm coming before you and asking you to just sign off on the general area of where the welcome hub for Winterset would be placed. I've had more casual discussions with most of you over the last couple of years, and then recently Phil and I walked the out there to the proposed site, and I know Heather, you and I had some discussion about it as well. The proposed site being the northeast corner of the courthouse square, where there is a floral pocket, for lack of a better word.
The dog.
Yes, the dog yard. And there are numerous ways it could be installed. Originally, we were thinking having it bolted to the sidewalk behind the foliage and before the hedges. But it sounds like that could cause problems with snow removal. Phil had the suggestion of actually placing them just inside of the flower bed, or possibly on the lawn behind the hedge. The reason that we identified this particular corner is it's highly visible to visitors. We know that most of our visitors enter Winterset coming south down John Wayne Drive. The DOT has also asked that they be placed near a site where visitors are already coming for information. That would be the Welcome Center there on the corner of Jefferson and John Wayne Drive. We also want to make sure they're ADA accessible, so someone in a wheelchair would be able to read the signs, the kiosks, and so that was sort of the determination. And we also don't want to put it on any private land where the owners could decide at some point we don't want it here anymore. So that's kind of how we came to that particular corner. At this point, we don't need to say exactly where it's going to go, but we need to get your agreement that, one, you will place that kiosk somewhere on that corner, that's the spot, so that they can do a survey, make sure that that's land that's already been disturbed, so there's nothing that it would be upsetting there. And then there is a resolution in front of you that you will accept the kiosk, participate in this program by allowing placement of the kiosk on Madison County grounds. There is no cost. Installation, I believe, falls to the county engineer and secondary roads. No? Well, we can talk, because Teddi Yaeger was of that mind years ago, but we'll figure that out. The reality of the situation is that even signing off and we get the funding, it's going to be at least 3 years until we have our kiosks to place. They're feeling that with the 14 byways participating, 3 of those are considered National Scenic Byways, not state. They would have priority. So it's kind of a hurry up and wait, but just getting agreement that we have your permission to place it in that vicinity of that corner, and that you will accept that kiosk, and then we hope all the other byways do their work, and the DOT claims the funding, and then we wait to see when ours will roll out.
So the DOT cannot claim the funding until we say sign off on it?
Correct.
Okay.
So if we sign off on this, and we will, before we do anything, we will work out where it's going to be placed and who's going to place it.
Correct.
And the funding can't be used to hire someone to place it?
Because it's kind of
No.
blindsiding them by saying they have to.
Placing it shouldn't be too difficult, we can hire somebody to do that.
Yeah.
May I?
Sure.
The original agreement was because of it was in the road right of way. We can use monies
spent in road right-of-way. Once it leaves the road right-of-way, then it is, we're not allowed to spend secondary road funds outside the road right-of-way. So,
So you can't use your time
No.
even,
Yeah,
okay.
that makes sense.
yeah, that's
Okay.
just the way the law
Sure,
is with
yeah,
funding.
but that needs to be clearly,
Yeah.
we need to understand
That
that.
other agreement was done for the kiosks that are at the bridges
Sure.
are going to be.
Sure, yeah.
I know Teddy and I looked at it, and putting it on the sidewalk would be great until it snows. If you put it along the edge of the flowers, that would be all right, except for they're two-sided. So maybe there's a better location, or maybe it could be off the side of the sidewalk between the dog ear and like where the bell tower is. And if it was like maybe two small ones on either side, then you could see both sides of it without having to,
What about just doing a single side?
that's an option as well.
Yeah, I think, and we're running into this with the one at St. Charles, which will be at the Imes Bridge, and the back of it will face, will be grass. We can't really, I think it wouldn't be compliant to ask someone with mobility issues to go onto the lawn to read the back. But they're very sizable panels. I think we can get all the information we want on them, even if they are single-sided, but,
So I know you and I talked about possibly, so we can figure out visually where to put it, just get a piece of cardboard
yeah.
outline, so we can just move it around and say, hey, I like it there, or no, that interferes with that view, that view, we can't see that.
Sure.
So that might be a way to figure it out.
Yeah.
And you could move those plantings around a little bit too.
Yeah.
if that would look better.
I think it would look nice if they, if they planted stuff around it,
Yeah, they're beautiful kiosks. You have some examples in your packet. I know the public can take a look at those as well. They will have a metal cutout at the top that will reflect something symbolic of Winterset. I would personally go for the courthouse, the cutout of that, but that can be determined. There may be more than one. And then I'll be doing the design work as in kind as part of my byway position, and those adhere to the standards of the all the Iowa byways. And with the wood coverings on the posts, everything, it looks natural. It doesn't look out of place. And I do know from our new tourism website, looking at the statistics, that after the covered bridges, the most clicked on page is the byway. So we know that this is definitely of interest, and it would be great for those travelers to come in and know they've arrived and they're on the byway, and then look at, again, all the highlights that we have in Madison County to enjoy. So,
All right, well, thanks for navigating this, Teddy, and
doing my best.
we will figure out a spot that works best for us.
Okay.
I think that corner is the logical spot.
And again, that's as close as we need to come to determining that, and then again, there's a 4F form to sign. Michelle's been filling that in, as well as the resolution just to participate in this program, and receive that kiosk, assuming the funding is accepted by the DOT and we move forward.
Okay.
So are we considering the large one or the small one?
Winterset has been granted a large one. I do see on the resolution, it mentions 2 large ones. The second large one, it would actually be in St. Charles, that, at Imes Bridge, but the park is owned by the St. Charles, city of St. Charles, so, they will approve that one.
Okay.
But the other county-owned property, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, is that Bevington White Park is county-owned.
Yes, it is road right-of-way, that is correct, and it's not a park, it's right-of-way.
Okay. So, that right-of-way was granted a small kiosk. So I don't know in the resolution if we want to change that to one large and one small, that would technically be on Madison County grounds.
Okay.
Do these require no electricity, nothing?
Nope.
Sounds good. Thank you, Teddy.
Thank you so much.
All right, moving on, our next item is the ordinance for board consideration. I would ask for a motion to approve the first consideration of the amendment to the ordinance for solar use.
So moved.
Motion by Heather, is there a second? Diane, any further discussion? I'm gonna go on the record and say I was opposed to this when it was ran through in December of 2020. It was done hastily, and there's issues with it then. I think it's an infringement on personal property rights. So, just FYI, I will be voting against this. If there's no other discussion, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Nay?
We
Motion
need a
carries.
roll call for this because it's amendment to ordinance.
We'll do a roll call.
Roll call.
Fitch,
Aye.
Fitch, Stancil,
Aye.
and Clifton.
Nay. Motion carries. Resolutions. Approving the organization resolution agreement for credit card program.
So moved.
Motion by Diane, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Heather, any further discussion? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next one is approving C. Baker's full-time paramedic effective August 3rd. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Diane, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Heather, any further discussion? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next one is approving the union, AFSCME Union contract between Madison County and Courthouse Unit. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Heather, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Diane, any further discussion? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next one is the Sheriff's Resolution approving a 28E agreement between Madison County and the City of Earlham for law enforcement coverage overnight. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Diane, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Heather, any further discussion?
I just have a question. It said, pay a rate of $6 an hour. Is that $6 per hour regardless of whether or not they respond?
That's my understanding.
Okay. That's the only question.
All right, if there's no other discussion, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The next item is a supervisor resolution approving a county compensation board. There is a blank line on it. Oh, this is not a blank line.
No, it's
on it.
next one.
There was a model draft by ISAC on this, so I pretty much just followed that. The one thing I did take liberty with was determining a date to have these appointed by, and I thought September 1 was a reasonable time frame. Technically, everyone that's on that board right now, their term is over because the board's dissolved. I would think, my thought would be to reach out to the ones that served on it and ask if they want to continue to do so. And we had to stagger them, so I just drew names out of a hat to see who would get the 4-year terms and who would get the 2-year terms. Since the supervisors have 2, we would have 1 4-year term and 1 2-year term. So that's how that was determined. Other than that, it is all boilerplate from ISAC. Anybody have any other thoughts or questions?
Do we want to wait to appoint until whoever wins in November is set?
Well, you really can't because the meeting happens prior to then, or it doesn't happen prior to then, but it happens.
I mean, it usually does, but other
Information goes out in
counties-
October.
Yeah,
I think we
And
should
that
ask.
that person's not in office, so they really have no authority.
I understand. But these are 4-year, 2-year terms,
Yes, they
and
are.
they're gonna be potentially representing someone who's no longer there.
That's correct. But that person has no authority in November, so.
But we could wait to do that until January, and they can start meeting in January.
It's difficult to do that when you kind of need this done as one of your initial steps in your budget process.
Because I know some counties we can choose away. They don't need me.
What difference does it make if you don't, if you ask them now or you wait? I mean, they
Well, this
shouldn't
way,
care what-
you know, the new elected officials, whoever they are, because we don't, people still have time to run, they're the ones choosing their representative, not us.
I do understand what you're saying.
It's, thought there, because the terms are 4-year terms, and not 1-year terms.
4 and 2.
Oh, 4 and 2. And then I also had one question, on one it said, supervisors for 4, and then another says supervisors
We have
representative for 2.
We have 2 representatives.
Okay, so should it say 1 supervisor for 4 and 1 supervisor rep for 2?
That's what it says.
Well, it says plural, that's why I was asking. So it says the representatives of the Board of Supervisors, county attorney, county auditor, county treasurer shall serve an initial term of 4 years, and the representatives of the Board of Supervisors. So in both places it says representatives implying both. Talking about both. So I'm saying maybe clean it up, saying a representative from the Board of Supervisor for 4, and then a representative of the Board of Supervisor for 2. To clear it up, to clean it up.
The representatives is all of the officials, that means plural of all of the, not just Board of Supervisors, attorney, auditor. But
Just for clarity, so we know 1 of the supervisor appointees is gonna serve 4, and 1 of the supervisor appointees is gonna serve 2.
I think it's clear.
I don't have an issue with.
I mean, obviously, when they're appointed, it'll be clear, but for the resolution, clarity.
Looking for a motion.
So moved to approve the establishing the county conservation board,
County Commission, County Compensation.
compensation
Okay.
board.
As presented or as amended or?
I don't have an issue as presented.
Okay, as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is setting a date for the public hearing on the comprehensive plan. Do we have any
Well,
proposed changes on that before we
yeah.
set a date?
yeah,
I mean, I
well,
think from the meeting I went to, I think there's a lot of misinformation on what that means. I mean,
Yeah,
obviously, you desire growth to be here, here, and here, but it doesn't mean you're not going to allow it in these other locations.
so we can talk about it now, the meetings now, we can wait till, later on in the thing, but,
Well, I think we need,
Let's talk
I think we
about it
need to
now.
talk about it now before we set a hearing date. If we
Okay,
set a hearing date for
so-
2 weeks, well,
so obviously, I went to all 3 meetings.
You didn't do one in District 3 though.
Huh?
You did 2 in District 1. Truro was in District 1.
Right, I couldn't find a place in District 3. I had a temporary thing for St. Charles Methodist Church, but they told me that if it was a funeral, that we have to move.
Did you try the Baptist or Badger Creek?
It-
I know.
it doesn't matter, it's in the same general area, but anyway, what was
Okay,
the?
so anyway, we had 3 public input sessions. They were very well attended. So the one in Winterset was the most well attended. I think we had almost 50 people here. Earlham had about 35, 40, and then Truro had about 20, a little over 20. So they were very well attended. The chapter 14 on land use and development was probably the most discussed chapter. And you're right, I think there's some misinformation out there.
There's a lot of misinformation.
Yeah, so I did agree with the language in the comprehensive plan, to clean it up a little bit to make it more clear. And I took a lot of notes, and I guess the main concern is they're worried about not being able to develop it all. So I think that's one of the main concerns, I think we can clean that up with some of the language. I went to the zoning meeting, they had a zoning board meeting as well, and they dealt with that. And they had some good ideas too, that I think would do well to improve it. Obviously, we can't approve this until the zoning commission comes back with a report and recommendation. So they tabled making a decision at the last meeting, because they wanted more time. Some of the consistent feedback I received from the public is they felt that we didn't give them enough time to read it, because, we put it out there, and then we had the input sessions, and then, 10 days for a 156-page document. That is a point well taken.
Yeah, but 90% of it was kind of most
pictures and graphs and, yeah, so I think, the next zoning board meeting, Ryan, I think is the 15th of August. So I think I'm hoping they'll have their decision and a recommendation then, after that meeting. So if we do a public hearing, it would have to be after that.
Well, maybe at this point, we table it at
Let's
this
table
point.
this, because we have to
But
give them.
from what I was hearing, the meeting I was at, you know, well, it says there's residential growth is discouraged, is that right, in agricultural areas? Well, maybe you just strike discouraged, but maybe then you have restrictions on, maybe the minor subdivisions are fine, or you maybe you put the driveways in or whatnot. But if you're gonna have a major subdivision in one of those areas, maybe that isn't okay.
So that was one of the things that the zoning board came up, is to, because we had under incompatible uses, I think that's where folks are getting a little concerned, is we had discouraged up there, yes, where it said this part is discouraged, and then it listed compatible uses and incompatible uses. So one of the recommendations, again, they haven't finalized, this is just something to discuss, is that we change it to large residential developments is an incompatible use.
Yeah.
So I think that would probably eliminate some of the concern from the public if we clean that language up.
I don't think anyone's saying if you have a quarter section of ground, Joe Farmer wants their kid to build a house out there, he can't give him 3 acres to build a house.
Right, and that's a point well taken. And then the other concern that came up too is several folks to save money for building their house, they'll put a mobile home on the property. And one of the incompatible uses in a couple of sections was mobile homes. So that again, that is a fair point. I mean, that happened in Earlham. They had a mobile home on a piece of property for several years before they built their dream home. So one of the suggestions that the zoning board came up with was put on mobile homes that are not on a permanent foundation. So that will remove any of the, some of the concerns I think we had where we don't want to become mobile home park.
Right.
So these are things that they're working on, and they had really good ideas to help improve it just in the time that they had. So I think it's a good idea to give the zoning commission the time they need and then set the
I
hearing.
think legally it needs to be with them, so they'll come back with their recommendations and changes, and then we will approve.
Well, we decide whether or not we approve the recommendations and changes, because ultimately you don't have to take it, but they're legally required to get it. We can't make a decision, we can't approve the compensation plan until that's done. So plus the benefit would give the public another month to look at it.
And there's some kind of rabbit holes, you mentioned mobile homes, and I think sometimes these barn dominiums as an example. Some of these places are very nice, and some of them are, I've seen that look like a machine shed put over mobile.
Yes.
You know, and
Yeah.
how do you balance that out? I
And
don't
you
know.
know what? There is one of those
Oh, I know there
over
are.
by me. It's a mobile, it's a camper in a machine shed, and they're living in it. There's
So
quite a bit of
the
that.
RV thing came up briefly. I don't know if we can discuss that more, but that did come up. So I have a feeling they're gonna take a lot more time and review it, and I shared some of the feedback from the input sessions. The Earlham one was lively. So
Ours are pretty lively too.
yeah, lively on the other side, so they were like, we don't want development, so we, you know, but a lot of people there said, we need more time to digest this, so, I think that's a good.
All right. So your board will discuss this further in August, has that been mentioned? And then we could get, once that's been done, you guys could have like a final draft for us to consider, and
Yeah, it'd be their recommendation of final draft.
is everyone kind of in concert on this?
I believe so. Yeah.
So once they give the recommendations, then we can decide, you know, what we want to keep and what we don't, and then I can send that revisions to the consultant, have them get, you know, a copy, and then, we can have a public.
Right. Well, I think that's something we definitely want to get buttoned up this year.
Mhm.
And then the ordinance work, that's a whole other animal.
Yes.
Kind of pick those as we go. So, all right, that being the case, I'm hearing we will table that resolution for the time being. Next resolution is approving participation in the National Scenic Byways program. That's what Teddy spoke of earlier. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Heather, is there a second? Second by Diane, any further discussion?
I'd like it to be one large and the one small, I mean, clarify that, okay.
All right. There's no other discussion, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next one is Supervisor Resolution allowing Madison County Elderly Services to make improvements to their building and use some land there.
So,
Got a motion by Diane, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Heather, any further discussion? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Several secondary roads resolutions. I think we can approve I, J, and K together because they're all temporary road closures. We have a motion to approve those three resolutions.
So moved.
Motion by Heather, is there a second?
second.
Second by Diane, any further discussion? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The next resolution is approving traffic safety improvement program. So Cole spoke to, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Heather, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Diane, any further discussion? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next two resolutions are work agreements. I think we can consider those together. Do I have a motion to approve those two resolutions?
So moved.
Motion by Diane, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Heather, any further discussion? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. Board member reports. Anybody have anything to report on since our last meeting?
I'll finish with,
Okay.
so we had three input sessions. The one here, I think, was it here that lasted longest? Yeah, all here lasted longest. I think we went almost an hour. Was it three?
There's at least two.
Yeah, at least two. Meeting with Iowa Workforce Development, I sent you guys their report on return on investment, which I thought was very informative, on the money they spent for that program. Zoning meeting, for that, spent some time at the fair, worked the fair. Board of Health is meeting tomorrow, I'll plan on attending that. They're still trying to hire a full-time, full or part-time, public health administrator and or nurse. So hopefully we can get that buttoned up, but they're still functioning under a 2080 warrant for that. I think that's all I got.
Diane.
I attended CCOG, and there is a lot of Iowa grants. It's under iowgrants.gov for loans up to $50,000 through that program. There's some state housing grants and disaster. It's disasterassistance.gov for disaster recovery for the tornado. There's quite a bit of money out there, so people might want to look at that. I attended the urban renewal meeting at Winterset and the comp plan review at Truro. I have a landfill meeting. Our signs are up. We're still struggling with intercom systems. And we're completely moved. All the signage has been done according to DOT, DNR. The gates are open on the new one. The first old one is locked, so we have to go to the new gate, so that's all.
Is there a sign up? 'Cause we
There
got
are
that
signs
letter.
everywhere.
Okay.
There's a
There are
sign that says
signs
use the
everywhere.
gate.
Okay.
There are signs, and I believe that they maybe looked at the wrong website. There is, because our hours are 8, and there is another website that is real similar, so that's all. No, we're moving along. I was out there for a meeting, it's just trucks non-stop. It's just, yeah, they just take so much.
Do we know where they're coming from?
Well, you have to come from your tipping region. You have to legally, but people don't tell the truth. There's nothing you can do. You can say your license plates are Polk, well, but I took it from. So, and if they do find that they've done it wrong, they do report them and they do flag them.
I've got contractors with the Dare County plates at my house right now.
I know.
The trash is from my house.
Yes, yes. So they try to police that as best they can, but, and when they come, there are people who aren't honest.
They don't have like, little, like slips of paper certifying where they're coming from.
Oh, they have all kinds of things, but, and then they tell them, and yeah, they do, but they don't always tell, yeah, people, some are not honest. I mean, what are you gonna do? Now, they try very hard, because they don't want land money, they can't, they're not legally supposed to, and people know that too. And there's a huge sign that says where your tipping region is, that Teddy's shaking, it's so clear, and if you don't come from there, you need to leave.
I didn't have an aging resource meeting, that group doesn't meet in July or August. Normally we would have mental health on Thursday, and they canceled that meeting because there wasn't anything to consider, but I bet the August meeting will be very involved, because by then they'll have the regions formally established. I went to the urban renewal consultant meeting with the city of Winterset, and attended one of the comp plan meetings, pretty much just tried to sit in the back and listen. Sometimes I got brought into it. By and large, it was interesting just to hear people have their comments, and like I said, I think a lot of it's people's misunderstanding of what a comp plan is. I mean, it's your desired place. It's not hard and fast. Nothing's gonna happen here, everything's gonna happen here.
Yeah,
But stuff changes, you know, it's fluid.
it's not an ordinance.
But you have people really promoting that it's an ordinance and it's telling you what you can and can't do. It has created a lot of heartburn that isn't necessary.
I think the input sessions are helpful because the folks asked good questions, and I think they got the clarity they needed. So I'm hopeful, because a lot of people they came in with a certain idea and they left with a different idea. But again, until we do ordinances, that's when we're getting public input on it.
And even then, you could pass an ordinance, but something could come along and everything. This is a tremendous opportunity for Madison County.
You can do a
We should
variance.
probably do a
That
variance.
you do need to,
Yes.
sure. If somebody comes in and says, I'm gonna give you 500 jobs, of course you need to.
Exactly.
And zoning made that point. They
Yes.
said, look, even if it's in the ordinance, if they feel that this is something that's valuable or it's unfair the way it is structured,
General Motors wants to buy 1,000 acres and
Yeah.
put it in a car production, whatever.
you can do a variance, and we do it all the time, so, yeah.
You have to be careful that you're careful how you do variances, because variances can be a weasel world. Go around.
Well, that's where you
things,
look at the
Yes.
comprehensive plan, saying, is this lining up with the vision of the county?
too. A comp plan, the people need to understand, is just the will of the people. The ordinances are the teeth. The comp plan doesn't have teeth, so.
We're required to have it by
Right.
law.
But you should have a vision for what.
You should.
What it looks
I
like.
agree.
But, things change over time, that's why you should review them more often than every
Yeah,
20 years.
More often than 20, yes.
Probably almost 2 or 3, because things are changing.
Maybe a casual one at 5 and
Yeah.
an overhaul at 10 or
I
something.
don't know, I would go faster.
All right. Michelle, what do you have to report on?
So I sent through my monthly board clerk report to just update you on the things I've been working on in addition to my regular board clerk duties. Just an invitation, are there any questions? There are the Madison County Policies Project. The one that I sent to you is a procurement policy for review, and that was a part of a grant program. And I think the discussion, looking forward to, do we need a procurement policy, and would this suffice? And would you advocate?
It was all part of that CBDG grant for
Correct.
Turning Point, wasn't it?
Correct.
So we had to have one, so we did the minimum thing
It's a lot of
possible
good
just
stuff
to
in there.
comply with that grant.
But who, when we do things for the county, are those good ideas? And if we don't need that in place, then I can abandon that and move on, or if it's something.
I think there's value in having some kind of procurement policy. I don't necessarily think it's this, because this is tailored to federal grants, and it requires all these requirements that you comply with recycling, minority grant, giving preference to north minorities and stuff like that. And we don't really work like that as a county. We do bids and we get the lowest bid, lowest responsible bid. Also, Iowa code kind of governs the monetary amount. So like here it is 100,000 as the, 150,000 is a small purchase procedure, but
According to Iowa code, it varies depending on its population.
population, and then, I mean, it could go as low as 67,000. So I think there's value in having it and having, you know, guidance to folks to say, okay, if this is under $5,000, you know, get some bids, we don't have to go put it out for bid, but get some, you know, most bids, try to get the lowest price. But then it have an amount, if it's 100,000 or more, or in case of Iowa code, 67,000 or more, then we have to follow this procedure. So I think there's value there, but the caveat is that it would only fall under those that come under the Board of Supervisor jurisdiction. Technically, the other elected officials would not, and boards would not fall under this.
It's part of the state code they fall under.
Right, right.
So
we'd have to balance it to where we're clear on all that stuff, and that will take, you know, some digging in. I dug into the code a little bit, but I mean, I want to remove, if we do it, I don't want any of the federal language in there.
I think you just jettison that one
Yeah.
probably.
I like some of it, I dislike a lot of it. I think that we only need to have it pertain to what pertains to us.
Correct.
Get rid of all the federal.
I might add that this would be a very good example where Chip is gonna talk later about the annex roof. And the fact is that, you know, yes, elected officials occupy Madison County property, but what can they do without permission from the Board of Supervisors? Can they make structural and significant modifications? It might fit under their budget, but unlike, not unlike the elderly services, they sought your permission to do it. So I'm seeing that piece missing.
I
to be
agree with
honest
that.
with you.
I think we need to know when they make structural changes.
And they, because it's still your property and your jurisdiction.
Yeah, we oversee the buildings.
That's my point.
Yeah.
And that's where I think we have a gap.
And I think that could be part of the whole policy updates you're doing.
Would you like me to work on something like that that might
Yes.
resemble more of a private sector
Sure.
policy of
Well,
emergency?
Well, it needs to
Can't-
kind of follow
it can't
code
be.
a little.
I guess that's a starting point,
I mean,
but,
because that stuff is pretty cut dry, but at least
Correct.
then you've got it all on one
and I
page.
get what you're saying. I
Private
did
sector
feel this
doesn't
was too
have to
much.
follow code.
But I do think that your engineers and your maintenance folks need direction on where it begins and ends.
So chapter 26 of Iowa Code is a good place to start. That'll give you some guidance on that, for monetary and stuff like that.
And maybe we don't completely jettison this one, because it's, if
No.
we have another CBDG thing. we're gonna need
I
this.
think this needs to stay in the hopper, but, I just thought,
Well,
well,
we can add language to this too, and to be honest with you, if there's another grant, the feds change their requirements all the time, we're gonna have to pass something new in.
I don't want
and that probably exceeds what you're gonna get out of me. I mean, I didn't
It-
do it,
It
but
exceeds what we want.
the point is,
I think we should, this particular thing, we should just kind of
I want to leave it
set it
this.
aside, but maybe have a procurement policy for the county as a whole, and this is just gonna be
do you
for
wanna weigh in on this?
CBDG.
I think we need something in place that, just because it's an elected official and they have the money, they just don't go ahead and change a building
I
to
agree.
their specifications
Right.
when they've received direction from me to seek counsel with you first. That's what we need to have in
I
place.
think you're getting into a couple different things here, but they make sense, they should come together as a policy.
Mike, you have thoughts?
Well, secondary roads is a different animal completely.
Right.
There's different sections of the code, there's different sections of the administrative code. There's projects that we have to work with DOT, that's covered under a lot of that language you just kind of talked about. I would be very careful on how you word that, so it wouldn't affect, let's say, the secondary road department.
Right.
Maybe we could
That's
just,
not, I don't want to get into great discussion on this, but we have kind of a different rule book that's governed by the DOT. They give us a cap on certain spending.
Right.
And they give us guidance on bids and informal bids and formal bids and phone quotes. We already kind of do that right now.
Correct.
So we can make this policy exclusionary of you guys.
I mean, we want to be transparent, we want to do the right thing, but we don't make sure you don't handcuff one another mark. And that's also why, you know, that's why you have to have an engineer sign your claims, go through that process. It's outlined in the code.
We could exclude him and say our different rules.
I'm here to go back to the drawing board just for a minute.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks, Michelle.
Anything else, Michelle?
Thanks for looking into that, though. I think it's long overdue that we have something.
Well, just, again, one policy a month, and then the other one that you have is the organization resolution for the credit card program, and that's just designating your auditor. I guess I labeled it, I don't think I think it's gonna have to come next month, because I don't think it hit your agenda. I goofed up.
Michelle,
Yeah,
I'd have to look back, but I think there's some guidance from ISAC from several years ago
okay.
on kind of a policy or a rule of thumb on those type of purchases.
Perfect.
You know, when is it okay to check with 3 vendors to buy a water pump?
Exactly.
Get the lowest price.
That's a good idea.
Solid
I think there's
direction.
I think there's some guidance there that ISAC put out several years ago.
I know Scott County and Cole County have really thorough procurement policies on their
And
website.
Story County does too.
Yeah, so I would, several other ones I checked, they basically are copies of this. They use the same CBG as their procurement, which I don't think is the right way to do it, but, yeah, rather than reinvent the wheel. Yeah. No, thanks for starting that, that's great.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any other old business? Under new business, we have the annex roof, which I would say is old business. But anyway, Chip, give us an update on that thing.
It's, until we do it properly, it's gonna be a continuous problem. I mean, we've got the drains working, we've got the exit of the building working on it, but even we went low bid last time, it was just a membrane spray, it's already got issues up there. The gentleman says he's opposite out of St. Mary, but he's really out of St. Joe, Missouri. It's hard getting them here, and basically they've been here so many times that it's another spot someplace else. So the bids I've got for you, I mean, they're much higher than it was 4.5 years ago, but it's a total roof removal and when it needs done, taken down to the pan deck and done properly.
How did you pick these particular folks to get bids from?
Just sop them out.
I kind of asked him to go try to get as close to local as he could.
There's not a lot of flat roof
And
vendors
there
out
are
there.
very few, there's not, okay. I think we got one that we used in St. Charles, did they ever come?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then one, somebody knew of that did really good work. We tried to seek out the research on who worked out well and.
Well, I know the one for Earlham School did not work out well.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
what we-
remember the name of that one.
That's what we avoided. We tried to find people that have had good luck.
The low bid is the one that went with higher recommendations, has done schools and other flat roofs and
Okay.
And ballpark, it was like 100,000,
130.
130?
The higher bid was like 170.
And they're gonna go completely back down.
They both did core drills. I mean, each multiple layer of the roof has water that's just sitting there.
Chip, I would suggest maybe when they start this, that you go into the recorder's office, take the panels off, and have someone wash all of the rafters, all of that, even if it's steel, wash.
So it's steel and concrete.
I would still wash it because it's been too wet. And that's what happened in Seacom. They ended up having terrible expense of mold removal. It didn't matter what the surface was, it was on it. So I think when you're doing it, I would wash all of that up in there.
I think it needs to be done. The next question is how we can pay for it. Once we get these other building projects wrapped up, there may be some COVID money left over, if we're gonna earmark that, for
We
that.
have to earmark it.
At the end of the year, exactly. It doesn't have to be spent for another year, so, but
Right.
if you know,
Why don't we just do this? I think what we have, 300, 400,000 left?
Yeah, something like that. We've got to earmark it.
we've got to get the courthouse project, certainly, we got to get the courthouse project done. And Steve, you're good?
It's not on the
So,
agenda.
I know it's not on the agenda, but that's another thing.
Well, we have almost 400, so we can get the roof done, and then we'll have some left
We're
over.
not done paying for the courthouse yet, we still got the retainer on that.
Yeah, but is that coming out of the,
Uh-huh.
is coming out of our money?
Yeah, because we didn't get the, what's your,
We didn't get that big.
Jeffress.
Oh,
First
that's
grade.
right, okay. So the retainer's what, 200,000?
I was thinking closer to 3, but anyway. There's not, my point is that once you get that wrapped up, there's not a ton of money there.
So, yeah, I know.
So I think you gotta get through those, find out, do you have 150, do you have 90, what's that dollar amount? Then you can earmark it for that.
Do we want to have a work session to talk about this?
You need to get the other projects done.
Yeah, until we see how much money we have.
It's almost September, I mean, it's almost
Well, I
August.
understand that.
Okay.
So, Chip, thank you. I think if we all understand it's a priority, the next question is how do we pay for it? We'd like to do that, but then the next option is lost money, so I don't know what's available for lost money. Might check with
Well,
Shelley on
loss, we need
that.
to be preemptive, when we have air handler issues again up in the dome. I mean, we didn't go with replacing that, it was $100-some-thousand. I mean, we got fixes at the courthouse that are, the last 3 winters been multiple fixes, from elevator, boiler, air handler, so I mean, we need to look at that with my lost emergency fund money.
How much
Alright.
loss do you get?
I would have to check to see what's in there, but it's not.
It varies too.
If we did the roof here, we'd clean it all out.
Okay.
And what that is like my emergency boiler work last November of $20-some thousand, that's where that money came from, was lost.
Should we have Chip make a list of everything that needs to be done? And how much, find out from Shelley how much lost roughly you get a year and what you have left for this year? And that way we can prioritize.
Yeah, that's great in theory until you get that $25,000 hiccup that has to be replaced tomorrow.
That's what I'm getting at, I mean, we got these hiccups, it's continuous at the courthouse.
And it varies with him so much, it gets higher and higher and higher. It's so hard for him to put it.
But he just listed a few things that need to be done, and I think we need to really figure out what we need to prioritize and start getting it done. Otherwise, it's just their language.
So you're gonna ask him to do away? Why? Yes.
Well, he just mentioned a few things right there.
You know what, you could do it as close as you can, and then add 10% higher to it maybe.
So that way we have an idea of what we need to expect, and then how much roughly it's gonna cost, see how much money is in lost, see how much money we think we're gonna have left over from our money, and then we can start whittling down that list, at least start, because right now it's just sitting, we're not doing anything. So I'd like to start getting things done.
That makes sense. Well, that kind of dovetails into the courthouse exterior project. Where are we at on that? They're working on the dentist.
I did call Rick when he was sick, but I was in a not good mood, so I made him come over, and they are fabricating it, and he's approving it for them.
What?
They're making sure it's perfect, and it matches perfect before he's making it be approved before they go much further. He's
So
approving
this is-
every piece
okay.
that they're doing.
So he's doing, so he can approve the first step, but then when they put it up there, he's gonna go back up there and approve it,
But
right?
he's also making sure that on the ground, it all matches, it's all put
Right, that's
together
good.
correctly.
I'm happy
Because I
about
want
that.
this done, and so he's doing it in pieces, and he's very careful.
And I'm appreciative of that. I just wanna confirm that once it's up there,
It's going
he's
to
gonna
be
go back
perfect.
up there.
Well,
and
he'll
look
have to
at it.
go up there,
Okay,
which he said he
all
would.
right, Okay, all right.
Um,
I
Did you get that
misunderstood.
glass in place? It still looks cloudy.
They got it replaced,
Now
and,
it's just dirty.
it's true.
How come we
They did
can't
try
do
to wash it, but I think they need to take some Dawn soap and wash it really well, and then it'll perfect well. They are coming, window wash cleaners.
it? Okay.
So,
Okay.
they did try to wash
What
it.
about the south door? Is that what we're waiting on?
Rick did, they came and changed that weather stripping, and I think it needs to come off, because the door swells a bit with the humidity, and it doesn't open and close right. And Rick asked them to put that on, and they said, no, I don't want to, but they did.
Are you talking about the vestibule doors or
The vestibule doors.
I'm talking about the south doors, when are those gonna be open?
I don't know why they can't. I will check that. I will call, I think Rick can do it. I'll ask him.
Yeah. Let's get that button up. so
But you know,
nobody's
for the
sitting in.
festivals, maybe it'll do it.
All right,
I can ask him.
comp plan revision, we've talked about that. Is there really anything else?
Well, I'm just gonna, when the zoning board meets on 15th, I'll attend that. And I've already told the consultant that, we're kind of on holding pattern right now. And, he just says, give me a heads up, because he wants to be here for the public hearing whenever we decide to do that. And he wanted to make sure that you guys are okay with him coming to public hearing, or you want to see him beforehand. So, I told him that I don't think there's gonna be a lot of changes to the comprehensive plan that he provided, but there's definitely gonna be a few. So,
All right. All I can say is, I want items 1 and 2 of the 24 priorities off the year before I'm here.
Yeah.
Let's get that done. Ordinance review, probably nothing else on that, is there? That's gonna be a 2025 priority, I'm fairly certain.
probably, should we just move it to 2025?
Probably, yeah, probably.
Yeah,
Leave it all
it's
there.
it's theirs.
Doesn't matter.
All right, anything else? If not, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So.
Motion by Diane, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Heather, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everybody.